Hi, this is Lost in Electronics. Today we are having, I think, one of the important things to do with it, with your Pi, especially with security, is to make sure that you go and install a firewall on it, and also make sure that failed the bans on it. If you haven't already done so, there is great instructions on the Raspberry Pi page of the Raspberry Pi .org.document.configuration.security.md, which is the article I personally followed. But just to go along on this video, we're going to go ahead and kind of walk you through this just in case you haven't done this before. But this is kind of the rundown through this. First thing I always do is make sure you have your make sure you can basically make sure you have your make sure one of the things is before you install the firewall. Actually, after you install the firewall, which I've already done here. You can see I already installed it. That's why it tells me there's nothing to upgrade or see anything. So here, the next thing we're going to do here is we want to make sure it's running here. So we always want to go ahead and make sure it's running in here and proceed with operation. Yes. And the other thing you want to do is you want to always make sure, if it's not already allowed, is you want to make sure you can get back in. If you're using SSH, is you want to make sure the US allowed before rebooting, which is make sure that it's allowing ports numbers, which in this kind of case I was running a Pi hole, so I made sure 53 was opened. And the other one I already want to make sure is also opened is 22, which already happens because I already installed those things. And if you want to specify either TCP or UDP, you can. And if you want to see what is currently opened here, you can definitely do that here. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to install this one here, which is, let's go ahead and decline the TCP 22. We only need UDP in there. If you want to see if everything is working here, we want to check the status here. We can tell that we declined port 22 on the TCP. We did allow it on the UDP. Right there, so we can tell you, so that way allows it so that we can go and that allows us so that if you want what kind of protocol we want to use. And the other thing you want to make sure that you have enabled, if you haven't already done it here, is make sure we have make sure we have a limitation of what we can do here. UDP. So we want to make sure we limit here. So we want to go ahead and we want to allow this again here. So we're going to go ahead and go to sudo ufw allow ssh tcp. So if you don't know any commands, you can also go and always go ahead and to delete a role. So we're going to go ahead and do this here because we just So we'll make sure that here, I want to make sure that's not there. So I want to make sure before we reboot, you don't lock yourself out of the SSH access here. So we want to make sure we can remove here. Always make sure you know your role into listings before here. So we want to make sure that we have so we want to go sudo enable you at so we want to make sure we do on it. We always want to go and make sure we always have the command here of enable it. Yes. Okay, so we want to go ahead and go sudo ufw allow 22. Okay, so we got that one. And then we want to make sure that we also allow sudo ufw allow 53 because we need to let the pi hole run. There we go. And then the other one we want to do here is and then we also want to make sure that cool. So what this is telling us is we have port 22. We allowed our SSH access, but we're taking it through UDP and not TCP. And then the same thing, if you want to be able to put it in specific port, we could also do say, hey, we want to allow or decline for certain devices here. And then where also the other one we want to install, if you haven't already done so, is let's go ahead and make sure we use fail to ban. And here we want to go ahead and go to fail to ban. So we're going to go ahead and clear this out here. So first, to make sure that if you want to enable here, so if you haven't done so, make sure you install the. We're going to show you in the commands here for. We can show that our firewall is running here. Let's type in sudo apt install, and then if you whatever package you want to do it, just like if you want to be able to sudo that here. You can see the role's already set up, or if you want to allow or decline a role, all you'd have to do is say, hey, we want to allow or decline, depending on whatever role you want to do here. Here is an example on the screen here of the command you would want to run right there. And this is failed to ban. This is always a good one to use here because failed ban allows it. So if somebody tries multiple times getting your system here, then you would just go in here and you'd want to go and paste. We're going to go ahead and just paste this article here. So in this kind of case, failed to ban tells us it's pre-installed, but if you didn't do this, and then we just go ahead and follow these commands here. If you follow this article here, you can be able to do copy and paste it. But this kind of show you what you'll be able to do here. I've already copied that command so I don't really need to do it again. But here is the local file here in case you want to do here. This is just tells me, hey, here is the directory, and make sure you copy this directory over here in your SSH directory, so that way you know that that the source here, which you can see is enabled, telling us, hey, this is the logs, and this is only authenticate based off of this. And then we went in the log file and do pretty much the same thing here. And we want to exit because I haven't done anything, but that's where you want else to do here. Follow the parameter, and then the same thing if you want to be able to here, if we want to make sure this is going through here, so we want to go ahead and do the same kind of configuration here. And if you want to edit a file, I like using Nano, but you can use Vim if you want to do this here. But so we're just going to go ahead and use Nano, but we can use Vim if you prefer to use Vim. And again, here is your IP table, your exclusion. It tells you what to be able to do. And again, we need to make sure we have this information down here is placed in the permanent there, and allows us to tell us, hey, we need to have our command ran through here. And also we want to make sure that under default sections, like it tells us right here, we want to make sure under the IP tables that we have that command included, so that we can be able to make sure that we can get everything here to make sure it's functional here. So here's just showing us our information. We got everything already there, so we're just going to head and exit. And this is how to be able to go and do fail to ban. And we have more rules if you want to go here. Great tutorial on fail to ban. And here's all the information on filters and other things you can do, be able to kind of get into a little bit more in depth into to fail to ban. We can put more rules and sets and send mails. I'm just going through the basics here. You can use only certain DNS looks over host names. You can block a lot of things, so that way, again, more we lock it down, the better off we're going to be here from the standpoint of here's our configuration. Again, these are things you can conclude here. It's a good idea if you do run a Raspberry Pi or even Debian or any other distribution, you can install fail to ban on anything. Just you may have to slightly modify the command based off of how your installed directory, based off what distribution you're using. This is a great article on how to go through fail to ban, because again, this is important to make sure that you use fail to ban, because what happens is somebody try to break into your system, at least it bans that address, so that way it makes it a little bit more secure. It's good to have firewalls, and it's good to be able to have secure. We need to make sure that on all our devices we have good security. Just in case if somebody does for some reason bypass your router's firewall, or somehow figure out a way to be able to work around it in case you get through your IPS system, you want to make sure that you can still protect other parts of your network. Or for those say example, somebody's inside your network, and let's say example that maybe if somebody got onto your wireless, and from the internal standpoint, you want to make sure that they can't just get right into your Pi and break in or try to use that Pi as a rat on the system. So make sure they can't get that reverse shell. To try to prevent that as much as we can, we're going to go ahead and try to use something like fail to ban. I think it's very important to make sure that we have something to use it. And again, this is just kind of going through some of the basics. Great Raspberry Pi project to lock everything down. Again, we'll go ahead and I'll link the article when I get this. When we go ahead and we'll get this linked here into the show notes when I go ahead and place it in on where to be able to find how to be able to use fail to ban, use the simple firewall, UFW. So that is one of the things that you have here. Again, security is what you make of it. Try your best to lock down your devices. These commands work on any other distribution. It's probably a good idea if you do have anything. If you want to even get any more, is make sure you use certificates instead of just use passwords. Try to delete the Pi user and try to use another user. Again, it's not a good idea to just use the default user that they give you on the machine. Make sure that they're, especially with those when they're, because most times if they're going to try to stuff credentials, they're going to try, the first thing they're going to try is the default usernames and passwords. So again, those are things. Always make sure you change your of course, you always use the username from Pi if you're using the Raspberry Pi and Raspberry or whatever distribution is. Whenever you look it up, change it from the default, because again, we want to lock everything down. The biggest thing is we don't want to have you don't want to go down the road, realize, hey, I have somebody in my network that's ciphering my data across or using it for other purposes. And the next thing you know, that some, like a federal agent, shows up to your door wondering why you've been having problems with where they're thinking that you're hacking somebody because of the fact somebody's using your network to attack others. The other things that we don't make sure that your information is secure. We don't make sure that somebody's not doing like DNS poisoning and other kind of tasks. We can kind of see something what was going on. Again, Wireshark and some of the previous other videos I have on here, you might want to check out in the past on what to be able to look out for. From the standpoint of how to use there. We'll have more videos in the future on how to use Wireshark. We're going to have some more videos on basically the pfSense firewall and going through those. We got a lot of new testing tools here so we can actually show you what's going on. So again, it's important to make sure that you have everything secure. Make sure that you know what you're doing when it comes to security, or if you don't, at least go and try to go and work out as much as you can, so that because again, you're gonna definitely have problems if you can't utilize the full capabilities there, and we want to make sure everything's secure. Again, every machine should have a firewall, it should have security onto it. Make sure that as best you can. Again, these are just things that everyone should be able to do here. If what we're going to do, we'll go into a little bit more in depth in the video on how to maybe set some rules, fail to ban. Just let me know in the comments if you would like to see a video like on that. So we'll go ahead and go a little bit more on the rule sets, on how to be able to lock everything down. The other thing is, if you do like the content you're seeing here, I would really appreciate it if you would click on the subscribe button, so it does show me that you're interested in my videos in the future. So I'll keep that week in there, so you can also get the notification. So click on the bell icon too, so that way you can be able to let there is. Again, these are I don't have any. I'm not a creator. I don't have it made any monetary area yet, because I haven't gotten to the YouTube to the point where I can make ad revenue. So again, I'm just doing this video because I enjoy it. All these opinions and everything I'm doing on this video is completely my own. I don't have any sponsorships, and I'm not pushing any kind of products. I'm just here to be able to help you and make sure that everyone, again, locking down security, because again, the biggest thing is make sure that everyone, more security you have and what people around you have, it's the better off it's going to be, for not only from the national security standpoint, but from the user standpoint. Least amount of fraud, a lot of things, those are things that we can try to cut down as much as you can. Make somebody's life a little bit more difficult if they're trying to break into your network. So a lot of things, if you set some basic these policies, are probably going to leave your network alone and probably go somewhere else, because again, if it's not worth whoever the person is attacking you's effort, they're going to give up in there. So again, a lot of these things is knowing how everything works, how to look for these things is important. So that way, it doesn't always mean you need to have an IT degree there to kind of get into to get everything working, but at least it kind of gives you some basic flows in there. And again, the community, reaching out back to the community and giving back to the community, I think is always very important, especially when it comes down to security, and that's around any kind of around the world. We want to make sure that we can protect our information. Your data is your information. It should stay that way. We have a lot of privacies. Everyone's talking about how Google and Facebook and all these companies are taking your data and using the same thing with Microsoft, putting some information into these repos and stuff, and we're always upset about the privacy and security. But again, there's some things we need to do on our side to also make sure that we can keep our stuff, we can clear our information, we can try to block those things. But if somebody's still getting in our network, it's not going to do us any good. And is not just going to be selling your information to ads, but it's more of what can they do with your network, what kind of options they have, what other kind of harm could they do with that network when they do get that control. So knowing your network, watching out, those things. These videos are just meant to help everyone. So again, so that we can kind of look out and know what's going on and kind of educate each other on there. And if you'd like to see any other kind of content in the future, so let me know. Put in the comments what would you like to see on this channel, or how would you want me to kind of go and approach some of these other topics. Again, I'm breaking videos based off what I think and I'm interested in and kind of what I'm learning at the same time of trying to change and try to help out there, because again, information is useless unless everyone has access to it.